Okay, so looking at the next day. Sorry, I'm having a bit of a cold. That's coming. Okay, so looking at the next day, what we're looking at is a sweep of Asia high or low. So we see that price came here. It was kind of an upward moving motion, slow but steady. And then what price did is it took out these highs. So there was some liquidity here. Price came, took liquidity, then give a big distribution to the downside with big impulse movement, leaving some of these gaps. And then what price did, now this is outside of the London window. So then I was not looking at this as an active trade. I waited for price to come, and then it took out these ones, these highs again, because of the liquidity sitting there. And then we got into the London session. Now, as we got into London, price is supposed to do two things for us. One, run on previous session high liquidity, right? Which it did, kind of, outside of the window though. However, I think we can be flexible a bit with what our range is. I try to be maybe like 5-10 minutes or 5-10 minutes on either side, just to give it some room. So this possibly could have been a valid entry. I maybe would have entered there. However, what I was waiting for is because of this big impulse movement, giving us a fair value gap there. So I'm waiting for price to come back to this zone, and then I enter, and as you can see, I put in a trade. Now, what this should have given us as a price is high of the day, or London high. But as you can see, London had not begun. But again, it's a market, so anything can happen. So with that said, price seemed to want to come back and create a new high, which it did. And this high became the high of the day. So that high took us out of the one trade. And what did we decide to do? So we said, since we've created this high, price came down, and then gave impulse movement to the downside. I was also seeing this rejection here, which is where your mind plays tricks on you. I don't know if you can see it, this one. So the rejection there by the red candle was a rejecting of a fair value gap. So I think this was an entry I was looking at to say, okay, if price decides, because we're in big sells yesterday, there's big imbalances up here, all the way up here. So if price then decides that it's going to buy, I mean, we can see we have higher lows. So this was a low, higher low, higher low, lower high, higher low, lower high, no, higher low, higher high, sorry, higher low. That's confusing. Higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. And then we get into London session. So I said, okay, however, this could have been just been liquidity, right? So maybe that's just what I assumed, that this is just a run on liquidity, and then price goes back up with a big impulse, gives us a fair value gap on that leg, and then we try and enter on the fair value gap, which is why I put in a hedge buy, this one, to see if I could ride that wave again back to the big imbalances on the upside. Now then price started moving down towards that zone, came into that zone, but then blasted right through the zone. Again, I'm not putting in higher time frame consideration. So at this point in time, I'm just guessing, or assuming that the trading plan or the strategy will play out regardless of whatever higher time frame conferences says. So it blasted through that zone and then just kept going down. So as you can see, price kept going down. Now, I didn't have a sell entry on this one because it is me, right? Sorry. Yeah, so I didn't put a sell entry on this one because I said now if it moves to the downside, we have to wait for a fair value gap to the downside, which we're not really seeing. My cat just jumped on my desk. Okay. So we're not really seeing a fair value gap, which is why I didn't enter any sells. But we can see midnight open is right there. Price came back during New York. So if I got in on any sells here, I probably would have gotten a good 1:3, but I didn't. I was looking at a bigger sell from somewhere here. Now we can see that we never got tagged in at all until New York. New York came. If you had a limit here, we possibly would have been tagged in and then taken out, and then price would have just continued to the upside. So really what price did, this was now the original Judah swing, where we could have just seen that 1, 2, these are so many attempts on this level, so it's definitely not going back up. So possibly what we should have done is we should have come, we would have been maybe trapped into one of these trades. Maybe would have put an entry here or there. But if you're still just monitoring it, this is 12. This is now Asia, New York evening session. So you definitely would have missed that. But this would have been a nice place to get in. If you saw this, then you saw a rejection on these lows, failing to take out previous lows. Then there's a new zone here, which is a demand zone or a strong support. So then wait for price to react. And then this is a liquidity sweep, possibly another sweep. This would have taken out so many people. This one right here. These are the ones that do the damage. Yeah, person like myself on this time frame would have been taken out on this one. However, if you saw that price got here and then was rejected all the way up, then potentially look for a buy setup on this one. I probably would have gone in somewhere here. Let's see if I will look up. Midline. Then if I take my long, no, nothing. So I wouldn't have been tagged in on this trade, sadly. But that's just how it played out. So it was a loss for this day, but a lot to learn. And if you can see, funny enough, price just reacted around this area and never came back and went all the way up to this TP. Funny, right? Look at this. Jeez. Right on that zone where my stop loss was. Okay, guys. Thank you so much. Ciao.